What's up, YouTube? I'm back with another conversation. If you are enjoying this content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to be a part of making this content happen, then consider joining us on Patreon by clicking on the link in the video description. Today, I want to talk about the problem of miracles, particularly in the context of being performed by a God who is both all good and all powerful. And has been my kind of practice. I do want to take a little different approach with this. I mean, there's obviously a lot of problems with miracles, but of course here I kind of want to focus on a few things. So we'll start here. Let's start with the need for miracles. The need for miracles is problematic for me. The necessity for miracles implies that there is something amiss in the world, something not good, that requires divine intervention to rectify. In order for a perfect creator, let alone one who is all powerful and all good, in order for a perfect creator to exist, who is all powerful and all good, creation would also need to be perfect, in my estimation. And I could be wrong about that, but to be honest with you, I wrestle even with the definition of perfection. I consider perfection itself somewhat of an illusion or a mythology. But anyway, since we're using this idea of a perfect creator, if there is a perfect creator, then its creation would have to be perfect. Why? In my mind, is because the workman is defined by the work. The existence of the need for a miracle indicates something is wrong with the work, especially if you can appeal to the workman to fix it. So if you can go to the workman and say, hey, can you fix this? Then the workman is fixing his work, which means his work is broken and is therefore not perfect. But so just the fact that the need for miracles exist is problematic for me in the context of a God who is both all good and all powerful. All right. I can harp on that a little more, but I think we kind of get the point. The second one for me is the selectivity of miracles. The issue of selectivity is particularly troubling within the framework of divine justice and benevolence. If God is willing and able to intervene miraculously in some situations, but not others, it raises questions about fairness and the criteria used for divine intervention. If any one person has ever been provided a miracle by this all-powerful, all-good God at any time, then that same God was either not able to intervene, again, not all-powerful, or neglected to intervene, not all good. If any God has ever truly performed a miracle for any person, that same God has refused to feed the hungry, house the homeless, or liberate the oppressed. The God who thought you were so special that you deserved a miracle decided that the Holocaust, the Ma'afa, and the atrocities being committed across the world were not special enough to intervene. Which this can lead to a lot of branches of exceptionalism, and that's another conversation we can have at a later date. My third issue here is the psychological impact of expecting miracles, which one I've seen, in real time. It's the amount of psychological damage that can be imposed when a person travels from event to event in expectation of a miracle, believing that some around them are receiving miracles and then they're just not. This can be psychologically damaging. The expectation of miracles, coupled with the perception that others are receiving them while you're not. These can lead to feelings of abandonment, which I've seen, unworthiness, which I've seen, or feelings of punishment of God, which I have seen, or punishment by God. Such feelings can have profound psychological effects, including depression, anxiety, and senses of isolation. The belief in a personal interventionist God who selectively bestows miracles can exasperate these feelings, leading to spiritual and existential crises. And we'll do some other videos on talking about what spiritual means in a contemporary and progressive context. And then this other problem I have is the dependency on miracles. And this is another one that I've seen in real time. The increasing dependency that people who believe in miracles have is a little troubling, of course, because it moves from needing miracles for what used to be biological extremes, such as needing, your arm to be broken or to be cured, of some devastating disease. It's now moving to the place of needing miracles just to cover your basic needs, such as paying the rent or putting food on the table. In my mind, this belief seems to undermine, ignore, and deprive us, which you've heard me speak of before, deprive us of recognizing and walking in the responsibility of our own human capacity. An increasing dependency on miracles for everyday needs undermines personal agency and the recognition of human capacity to address challenges. This dependency can lead to a passive approach to life's problems, which I've seen. And so instead of getting into the driver's seat, I come from a context where people are consistently waiting for divine intervention, waiting for God's timing, instead of utilizing their own abilities and resources to solve issues. They get to that place where they believe can't nobody do this but God. And if God doesn't do it, then it can't be done. And this just, spits in the face of human progress and capacity. Such a mindset can detract people from personal growth and the development of much needed resilience. And again, these things, I'm almost willing to say that most people can see these things in any context where there's these type of belief of the miraculous, whether it's a part of Christianity or any other religious belief system. Which is why, again, you've heard me say I am typically anti-superstitious. That's pretty much where I stand. That's my number one concern, and I'll talk about that in other videos as well. But then my final problem with miracles is the social ramifications of this. The belief that an all-powerful, all-good God would intervene in trivial matters like avoiding a speeding ticket or curing a headache, while allowing profound suffering, such as the Holocaust or the Ma'afa, which some of you know part of the Ma'afa as the transatlantic slave trade, or child cancer. This creates a tension that requires reconciliation to maintain any type of psychological coherence. Some individuals resolve this dissonance by attributing personal success or minor miracles to divine favor, viewing them as evidence of a personal relationship with the divine. This selective attribution leads to a skewed perception of justice and benevolence. It suggests a potential compartmentalization where the suffering of others is rationalized or diminished in the face of personal divine favor. This mindset can lead to several problematic outcomes for society. The first of which is I think one that we see very often, is reduced empathy, right? If individuals believe that minor conveniences are the result of divine intervention, there might be a risk of developing a reduced capacity for empathy towards those who suffer greatly without such intervention. The belief in a personal God who intervenes on one's behalf might lead to a perception that those who suffer lack favor or faith. And for any of you that think that I may be, well, you might be just pulling it a little bit here, I'd ask you to simply YouTube or Google or hashtag anything, favor ain't fair. This is a very popular saying, especially among the charismatic circles, particularly in the black churches and Pentecostal churches, and that is, God does for me because I'm special. I am the apple of his eye. God has favored me. I am blessed and highly favored of the Lord. There's an old T.D. Jakes message, literally an entire series, favor ain't fair, walks through this whole thing, and it sounds great when you're not critically engaging this idea. But what it is saying is that I am so special to God that God will do for me. And if you do kind of have this belief, then when you see other people struggling and suffering, you're like, well, the same God that does for me could be doing for them. They just need to know him better. So you put the impetus on the people themselves instead of on the all good, all powerful God. And if the context of the all-powerful, all-good God didn't exist anyway, then you wouldn't even have this flawed mindset in the first place, that I am here because God has favored me. And you wouldn't be struggling with that reduced empathy. Now, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, so I can't go that far. But we can at least see in this case that this definitely this definitely helps feed this type of mindset, that if others aren't getting it, then that's just the way it is. And I've seen this. I've seen people say, yes, God healed my headache, or yes, God told me something about somebody that really, really helped me. But then when you say, okay, but what about all of these people who died in this tsunami? Well, that would only happen if they didn't have a relationship with God. That's reduced empathy, where you are literally using your relationship with something that you have no evidence of to devalue human life. This is probably a good point that I could have brought up in this idea that some superstitious belief is highly dehumanizing. In any belief where you believe that God is doing for you while not doing for others is a very dehumanizing concept. One of the things that was really difficult for me to wrestle with pre-deconversion was this idea that God was so focused on this one group of people. That was mind-blowing to me, that we could attribute to this deity who is completely honed in on one specific group of people, sees them as the best, sees them as chosen, even though like they aggravate the hell out of him for whatever reason, because that's how it's written. I'm not just making that up. He's constantly calling them names. God and Israel are in a very abusive relationship. Somebody should reach out. Israel blinked twice. Anyway, but the point is that there is this reduced empathy that comes into place when your whole belief system is based on a belief in an all-powerful, all-good God who also shows favoritism. This will definitely lead to reduced empathy. And yes, I do know there's scripture that says God is no favor of persons, but literally, for God to make a covenant with Abraham above anybody else would make God a respecter of person. Yes, for God to call anybody my chosen people, that would be a respecter of person. So again, the Bible is not a non-contradictory book. But anyway, that's all another conversation. So reduced empathy, and the other one is moral disengagement, which we also see a lot of. Believing in selective divine intervention for trivial matters while significant injustices remain unaddressed can lead and does lead and has led to moral disengagement. This is the reality. This occurs when individuals disconnect their moral standards from their actions or beliefs, allowing them to ignore or minimize the suffering of others. So even when you know that something is absolutely morally wrong, if you have this attachment to this type of belief system, you will excuse that moral wrong in light of your superstition. This is God's miracle. They just don't believe in God. They don't have that favor. So these are just a few thoughts that were on my mind that I wanted to share. These have been my problems with miracles. And if you've enjoyed this content, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And if you would like to see us creating more content and would like to help in making content, help us make sure that this stays a reality, please consider joining our Patreon community, and you can do so by clicking the link in the description below. Thank you. Have a great day.